Good morning, students. Good morning, students. I was disconnected. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So today we are going to discuss on the digestive system of sheep and goat. The digestive system is similar of other ruminants like cattle, buffalo, etc. Okay, and some wild animals also like uh, giraffe, deer. So all the animals who are ruminant in nature, they have the similar type of digestive system as sheep and goat. So as you know that goats are herbivorous ruminant. That means they live on herbs and tree leaves. Okay. Trinobhoji animal, the goats. Their digestive tract, which are similar to cattle, sheep, deer, elk, bison, and giraffes, consist of the following parts, namely mouth at the beginning of the digestive tract. The portion that is involved in the digestion of food is the mouth. Then the esophagus, which is known to pass both the uh, halfly digested feed material and gases for respiration, that is the esophagus. Then the four stomach compartments start, and as we know, the compartments are the rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum. After the four stomachs, there is small intestine. There are different parts of a small intestine, as you know. Then cecum, and finally the large intestine. And we are going to discuss briefly on the different portions that is involved in the digestion of feed materials in sheep and goat. Before going in detail, have a look on the picture, and we can easily locate the mouth, the esophagus, the small intestine, the cecum, and the large intestine. And in between the small intestine and large intestine, the organ involved in digestion is known as cecum. Okay. Now, what we need to focus, we need to focus on the different chamber of the stomach. Different chamber of the stomach, as you can see, it is notified by 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 is the rumen, which one is the largest portion of the stomach. As you can see, the other three compartments are not large enough as rumen. So rumen is the largest portion of the stomach. The second portion is the reticulum, and the third portion is the omazum, and the final portion is the abomazum, which is also known as true stomach. Now, why is it known as true stomach? Is that in case of monogastric animal or non-ruminant animals like human, the stomach is single chambered. Stomach এক প্রকোষ্ঠ বিশিষ্ট, and that chamber is the abomazum. So all the monogastric animal possess single chambered stomach that is likely to be the abomazum of ruminant animals. Ruminant animals এর abomazum এর মতো তাদের গঠন এবং ফাংশন. That's why they are known as true stomach. The four chambered stomach parts are rumen, reticulum, omazum, and abomazum, as we know. Now we are going to in detail of every parts of the digestive tract. We are going to start with the mouth. So we will soon discuss about the dental formula of goat. Then we will come to know that the goat do not have any upper incisor or upper canine teeth. Okay, so the goats do not have any upper teeth, but in the position of those teeth, they have a strong rigid dental pad. So আমরা in our first semester we must have known the dental formulation or dental formula of different farm animals, and out of those we also have learned about the dental formula of goat and sheep. But in this semester we will specifically discuss on the dental formulation of goat and sheep in another lecture, that is most probably in the practical section. So we are not going to discuss about that today, but we need to know today that there is no upper incisor or upper canine teeth in case of the goat. So what do they have? They have dental pad in that position, and that is just in front of the hard palate. So there is a hard palate in the upper position. শক্ত একটা তালু রয়েছে, তালুর সামনের অংশে there is a rigid dental pad, অনমনীয় এবং স্থিতিশীল dental pad রয়েছে. The lower incisor teeth, the lips, and the tongue to take food into their mouths. So what are the parts? So what are the parts of their mouth? The parts of their mouth are the okay. The parts of their mouth are their lips, which is mobile. We know that they can move in a variety of direction. They have a tongue which can catch a different type of grasses or pasture of different length. They have the lower incisor teeth, and as well they have the dental pad in the upper jaw. And these are the parts of their mouth, and by the help of these parts they can take food into their mouths, and that is when the digestion starts. That is when the digestion starts. And one thing I forgot to mention here, that in the mouth there are some salivary glands. Salivary glands, Valala Gunti, and those glands secretes mucus and some enzymes which start the digestion of carbohydrate materials in the mouth. So it will be better to add up here. So the salivary glands secrete saliva and different enzymes, which in turn start the digestion of the carbohydrate in some extent. So the digestion starts here. The next portion, that is the esophagus, and this is a tube-like passage from the mouth to the stomach. The esophagus, which opens into the stomach at the junction of the rumen and reticulum, helps transport both gases and card, because a portion of the esophagus is the common portion for the digestive tract and the respiratory tract as well. So esophagus is একটা portion that is both associated with the digestive tract and respiratory tract of the ruminants. That's why it will carry both the gases and the card. Card means the feed materials or undigested, halfly digested feed material. So the location of the esophagus, as it mentioned here, it will open into the stomach at the junction of the rumen and reticulum. Let's see the picture. As you can see, this is the esophagus and it has just opened in the junction of, this is the rumen, the yellow one, and number two, this is the reticulum, and in the junction of the rumen and reticulum, the esophagus opens. Okay. Then the rumen. So as we know that rumen is the largest of the four compartments. And the capacity of the rumen, as you can see, is ranges from 3 to 6 gallon, and 1 gallon equals 3.78 kg. And the capacity depends on the type of feed. That means the bulkiness of the feed. If the feed is too much bulky or too much fibrous, then the intake will be reduced. And in case of concentrated feed, the intake will be higher. It is lined with small finger-like projections called papillae. So the inner portion of the rumen is arranged with some projections which are known as papillae. So if we see a picture first, that will be easier for us. As you can see, number one is the rumen hair, and many of you must have seen the internal structure of the rumen, which is composed of a numerous numbers of papillae. A finger-like projections, small projections, finger-like projections are the papillae. And what is the function of the papillae? The function of the papillae is that they will increase the surface. Papillae. They will increase the absorptive surface of the rumen. Okay, so as we know, the more the surface of um, the more the surface of the rumen or of anything, the capability is increased somehow. Like if we go for another example, the heat dissemination of any animal, যে কোনো animal heat dissemination rate increase with the body size. Body size যত বেশি হয় heat increase, হিট তোমার হচ্ছে এক্সক্রিট করার যে অ্যাবিলিটি তত বেড়ে যায়, বিকজ দ্য সারফেস ইজ মাচ মোর বিগার। হ্যাঁ, সারফেসটা বড় থাকে। দ্যাট মিনস হোয়াট আই মেন্ট টু সে দ্যাট ইন দ্য সেম স্পিসিস, একই ধরনের স্পিসিস নিয়ে আমরা যদি কল্পনা করি, একই স্পিসের দুইটা এনিমেলের মধ্যে একটা এনিমেল যদি আকারে বড় হয়, তার কিন্তু হিট ডিসিমিনেশন ক্ষমতা বেশি হয় বিকজ অফ দ্য হায়ার সারফেস। বেশি বড় সারফেস থাকলে ওই via the skin the heat dissemination capability is higher. Likely whenever the rumen have a specific capacity, তাই না, একটা নির্দিষ্ট ক্যাপাসিটি আছে বা নির্দিষ্ট সাইজের রুমেন হয়, and whenever there are a lot of projections or lot of papillae hanging from the rumen, they will increase the surface size of the rumen, and they will help in the absorption of the nutrients from the rumen. This compartment also known as the pouch, P-A-U-N-C-H, pouch. The meaning of pouch in the dictionary shows it's like of sac or it is the stomach directly. Pakustuli. Is there any confusion that the papillae will increase the surface or will it decrease the surface? প্যাপিলি গুলো কি সারফেস বৃদ্ধি করবে না কমিয়ে দিবে?
স্যার বৃদ্ধি করবে।
বৃদ্ধি করবে, এক্স্যাক্টলি বৃদ্ধি করবে। আমি যদি একটু তোমাদের এক্সাম্পল দিয়ে বুঝাই, সাপোজ এটা দিস ইজ এ পোর্শন অফ রুমেন, হ্যাঁ, দিস ইজ এ পোর্শন অফ রুমেন and the rumen is this large, এত বড়। Now the surface size of this portion is only this. It could it could be 2 inch, হ্যাঁ, ধরো যে এটা 2 inch the surface, and now if there is some papillae, they will be projected like this, right? Suppose these are the papillae in the surface of the rumen. Now, if you calculate the length of the papillae, eh, because the papillae is covered with the same covering that covers the rumen. Now, if you calculate the length from here to here, like these, you can see these will increase the length to many times. It could be 10 to 12 or more inches, and that is how the surface is increased whenever there is presence of these kind of projections. Rumen contains many microorganisms and this is the speciality of the ruminant animals. Ruminant animals এর speciality হচ্ছে এটা that they will contain microorganisms in their stomach, such as bacteria and protozoa that supply enzymes to break down fiber and other feed parts. So for the breakdown of fiber and other feed parts, the activity of the bacteria and protozoa produced enzyme is necessary. Microbial activities in the rumen result in the conversion of the starch and fiber of feeds to the volatile fatty acids like acetic acid, propanoic acid, and butyric acid. So what is happening here? The fiber and the starch or carbohydrate content of the feeds are being converted to volatile fatty acids by the action of the microorganisms. Okay, by the action of the microorganisms. And the resultant fatty acids are the acetic acid, propanoic acid, and butyric acid, and all these are fatty acids. These volatile fatty acids are absorbed through the rumen wall or absorbed through the papillae. Papillae দিয়ে এবং rumen wall দিয়ে absorbed হয় and provide as much as 80% of the animal's total energy requirement. Animal যে total energy requirement তার 80% আসে rumen থেকে উৎপন্ন হয়ে। That is why the rumen is that much important in case of the ruminant animals. Okay, let's proceed. So now we are going to talk in detail about the microbial digestion. Microbial digestion in the rumen is the reason that ruminant animals effectively use fibrous feed and are maintained primarily on roughage. Now, there is a common question in the viva and in the exam also, written exam also, that why the ruminants can consume and metabolize the fibrous feed stuff, whereas the non-ruminant can't. Non-ruminant যেখানে পারে না, কিভাবে ruminant animal গুলো এই fibrous material অথবা roughage যে feed materials আছে এগুলোকে তারা digest করে ফেলে? The answer is that the answer will start from the second para. Okay, the answer will start from the second para, that rumen contains microorganisms such as bacteria and protozoa, and they do so and so. So as we already know, the microorganisms will degenerate the fibrous content or starch content of the feed and they will produce energy in the rumen. And this is the reason that ruminant animals effectively use fibrous feed and are maintained primarily on prouphages. Rumen microorganisms also convert components of the feed to useful products such as essential amino acids, beta complex, vitamins, and vitamin K. So it is also other functions of the rumen microorganism that they convert components of feed to useful products such as essential amino acids, beta complex vitamins, and vitamin K. And after converting these nutrients, they utilize these nutrients to propagate এই মাইক্রো অর্গানিজম গুলো বংশবৃদ্ধি করার জন্য মাইক্রো অর্গানিজম গুলো বংশবৃদ্ধি করার জন্য এবং বেঁচে থাকার জন্য তারা ফিড থেকে এসেনশিয়াল অ্যামিনো অ্যাসিড, বিটা কমপ্লেক্স ভিটামিনস এবং ভিটামিন কে এগুলো নিজেরা কনজিউম করে। শুধু কনজিউমই করে না, এরা ফিড থেকে এগুলোকে সেপারেটও করে, নিজেরা কনজিউম করে। and afterward, once the shelf life of the microorganism is finished, or once the lifespan of the microorganism is finished, the microorganisms themselves are digested in the small intestine to free up these nutrients. So এই নিউট্রিয়েন্টস গুলো কিন্তু লস হবে না। এই মাইক্রোঅর্গানিজম যে নিউট্রিয়েন্টস গুলো ফিড থেকে গ্রহণ করে রেপ্লিকেশন করলো অথবা প্রপাগেট করলো, these nutrients are never lost. These nutrients will be regained in the small intestine once the lifespan of the organism are finished. Okay. In the process of digesting feeds, rumen microorganisms also produce large amount of gases, primarily the methane gas and carbon dioxide. The animal normally eliminates these gases by eructation or belching. When the gases are produced faster than the animal can eliminate them, a potentially lethal condition known as blot can result. As we know, a higher quantity of gas production inside the stomach of the animal is known as blot. And the blot condition is often associated with the rapid consumption of large amounts of leguminous vegetation. Is there any question regarding this slide?
Sir, eructation or belching, sir, বুঝতে হয়।
Eructation বলতে যেটা বোঝায় ঢেকুর তোলা, ঢেকুর তোলা, as like as human, whenever there is gas formation inside the stomach, the human eructate, ঢেকুর তোলে। And belching means that the air that passes via the anus, পায়ুপথে যে বাতাস বেরিয়ে যায়, that is the belching. Okay, so this is how the animals excrete the gases like methane and carbon dioxide. Any other question?
স্যার একটা কোশ্চেন ছিল স্যার, রুমেনের এই কোন কোন মাইক্রো অর্গানিজম আপনার এই এনজাইম গুলোই করে সাপ্লাই করে? ওইখানে তো ব্যাকটেরিয়া, প্রোটোজোয়া এগুলো।
তুমি কি স্পেসিফিক নাম জানতে চাচ্ছ?
জি স্যার।
Specific নাম জানতে চাইলে you can search in the internet like this: microorganisms of rumen, okay, or bacteria of rumen, তাহলে এখানে অনেকগুলো নাম চলে আসবে। So we have some names in the following slides. Hopefully we have some names in the following slides. তখন আমরা দেখতে পারবো। যদিও না থেকে থাকে, you can go for search in the internet. Bacteria of the rumen. So I hope there is no more question, but I want to clarify one thing again. The second sentence of this para: rumen microorganisms also convert components of the feed to essential amino acids, beta complex and vitamin K. So rumen microorganisms feed থেকে এই নিউট্রিয়েন্ট গুলোকে কনভার্ট করে, and they hold this nutrient, তারা এই নিউট্রিয়েন্ট গুলোকে হোল্ড করে to sustain and to multiply, সাস্টেইন করার জন্য, বেঁচে থাকার জন্য এবং বংশ বৃদ্ধি করার জন্য এই নিউট্রিয়েন্ট গুলোকে তারা কাজে লাগায়। So we can think that these nutrients, feed nutrients, are being lost. তাই না? এই ফিড নিউট্রিয়েন্ট গুলো লস্ট হচ্ছে বিকজ মাইক্রো অর্গানিজম এগুলো গ্রহণ করে ফেলছে, বাট there is no loss due to these microorganisms because afterward or after the lifespan of the microorganism are finished, the microorganisms themselves are digested in the small intestine. এই মাইক্রোঅর্গানিজম গুলো স্মল ইন্টেস্টাইনে যে ডাইজেস্ট হয়ে যায় এবং সেখান থেকে কিন্তু এই নিউট্রিয়েন্ট গুলো আবার অ্যাবজর্ব হওয়ার সুযোগ পায়। ওকে, the reticulum, the second portion or second chamber of the stomach, the compartment also known as the honeycomb or hardware stomach. So এটা দুইটা নাম রয়েছে, honeycomb and hardware stomach. The name honeycomb because of the structure of the internal content, internal structure এর জন্য রেটিকুলাম এর আরেকটা নাম হচ্ছে honeycomb. So you will see that the internal structure is somewhat like the honeycomb structure. It is located just below the entrance of the esophagus into the stomach. We know just below the entrance, the portion of the stomach is the reticulum. When goats swallow foreign objects such as wire, তারপরে nails means তারকাটা টাইপের কিছু, and spew, these objects can become logged in the reticulum. Okay, so the object which are hard in structure, they can be logged in the reticulum. And they can potentially cause serious injury. The reticulum is part of the rumen separated only by an overflow connection. So namely the ruminoreticular fold. So the rumen and reticulum, these two chambers are separated by a single layer of membrane which is known as ruminoreticular fold, and that's why the microbial reaction or action also takes place in this compartment. So reticulumeo microbial digestion hoy, but in much more lower extent. The capacity of the reticulum of goats ranges from 1/4 to half a gallon, 0.25 to 0.5 gallon. Omasum is the compartment which is also known as many piles. So many piles means many folds, অনেক ভাঁজ সমৃদ্ধ যে foldটা which is known as omasum. So let's see the picture of omasum also. Rumen, the second one honeycomb structure is the reticulum, and the third one consists of many folds is the omasum. This compartment, also known as the many piles, consists of many folds or layers of tissue that grind up feed ingesta and squeeze some of the water from the feed. The capacity of the omasum of goat is approximately 0.25 gallon. Okay, the last chamber of the stomach, the apomasum, is often considered as the true stomach of ruminant animals. It functions similarly to monogastric animals' stomach. The mucosa of the fundus contains parietal cells. Okay, so the mucosa of the fundus. What is the fundus? Fundus is the upper portion of the abomasum. As you can see in the picture, this is the abomasum, and the upper portion of the abomasum is known as the fundus. Okay, is known as the fundus. So the mucosa of the fundus, or the membrane on the fundus position, contains a cell known as parietal cells. ওখানে এক ধরনের সেল থাকে যেটাকে parietal cell বলে। Those cells, the parietal cells, secrete hydrochloric acid HCl, and there is presence of chief cells also. So parietal cells and chief cells, there is presence of which secrete hydrochloric acid, the parietal cells, এবং chief cells নামে আরেক ধরনের সেল থাকে which secrete enzyme pepsin or pepsinogen. Pepsinogen, NOGEN অথবা pepsin, whatever. This enzyme is secreted in an inactive form known as pepsinogen, and further it is activated and then renamed as pepsin, which is then activated by hydrochloric acid. So the chief cell that is going to produce the pepsinogen will be activated by the hydrochloric acid produced by the parietal cell. Pepsin is responsible for breaking down feed proteins before they enter the small intestine. So for the breaking down of protein, the pepsin enzyme is responsible, and it happens before they enter the small intestine. The pylorus, the bottom portion of the abomasum, which is the terminal portion of the abomasum, is characterized by secretions that are largely mucus. So পাইলোরাসের অবদান হচ্ছে তারা মিউকাস সিক্রেট করে, and the capacity of the abomasum of both is approximately 1 gallon. abomasum মোটামুটি 1 গ্যালনের মতো হয় capacity, in fact. So this is all about the fourth stomach or fourth chamber of the stomach of ruminant. The pylorus portion is the lower portion, as I said. This is the portion of pylorus in the abomasum. Okay. And the compartments of the stomach looks like this. Looks like this. You can easily identify them. The rumen that will have a lot of papillae. The reticulum is composed of honeycomb-like structure, and that is the thicker portion of out of the four. The omasum is consist of several folds, and the abomasum is consist of mucus. You can see the surface is consisting a lot of mucus, and that's why it looks glossy. It's a glossy that time. The next thing is the small intestine. Okay. So in the rumen, the feed materials will be digested, partly digested, and this partly digested feed will enter the small intestine, and the first portion of the small intestine is the duodenum. the enzymes produced and secreted by the pancreas and the Brunner's gland, which is also known as the duodenal gland. So pancreas এবং Brunner's gland থেকে যে এনজাইম গুলো সিক্রেট হয় further break down feed nutrients into simple compounds. So the function of the small intestine is to produce some enzymes by the help of the pancreas and Brunner's gland, and these enzymes will break down the partially digested feed materials into more simple compounds. These compounds are absorbed into the bloodstream or lymph by an active process carried on largely in the jejunum and ileum. So the nutrients being produced here or being separated here from the feed materials. ফিড ম্যাটেরিয়ালস থেকে যে নিউট্রিয়েন্ট গুলোকে পৃথক করা হলো বলতে যেটা বোঝাচ্ছে, দেখো এখানে বলেছে যে দে ফার্দার ব্রেক ডাউন দ্য নিউট্রিয়েন্টস ইনটু সিম্পল কম্পাউন্ডস। এন্ড হোয়াট আর দ্য সিম্পল কম্পাউন্ডস? ফর কার্বোহাইড্রেট দ্য সিম্পল কম্পাউন্ড ইজ দ্য গ্লুকোজ, ফর প্রোটিনস দ্য সিম্পল কম্পাউন্ডস আর দ্য অ্যামিনো অ্যাসিডস। দ্যাট মিনস they have separated the nutrients out of the feed. Feed material থেকে duodenum কিন্তু nutrient separation হয়ে গেছে। And these nutrients are absorbed in the blood stream. এই নিউট্রিয়েন্ট গুলো ব্লাড স্ট্রিমে অ্যাবজর্ব হয় এবং এই absorption takes place in the jejunum and ileum portion of the small intestine. jejunum এবং ileum, which are the second and third portion of the small intestine, এখানে absorptionটা হয়। The small intestine wall is lined with many small finger-like projections called villi. So villi নামক অনেকগুলো finger-like projections থাকে small intestine, which increase the absorption area. রুমেনের মতো এখানেও absorption area মানে surface area বৃদ্ধি পায় because of the presence of the villi. The capacity of the small intestine is in goat is approximately 2.5 gallons, 2.5 গ্যালনের মতো ক্যাপাসিটি হয় হচ্ছে স্মল ইন্টেস্টাইনের। The cecum is a simple tubular structure, নলাকার structure, and it is also known as blind bud. It is located at the junction of the small intestine and large intestines, as we observed in the picture. Feed materials entering this compartment are digested by inhabiting microorganisms. Okay, so here also some microorganisms will inhabit অথবা reside, কিছু microorganism এখানে অবস্থান করে, and the undigested feed materials in the small intestine will be digested herein. এখানে digest হয়ে যায় by the action of the microorganisms. The capacity of the cecum of goat is approximately 0.25 gallon. The large intestine or the last portion of the the last portion of the digestive tract is the large intestine. Undigested feed and unabsorbed nutrients leaving the small intestine and cecum pass into this compartment. The functions of the large intestine include water absorption from the feed materials and further digestion of feed materials by microorganisms. The large intestine is comprised of the colon and rectum. So there are two parts of the large intestine, the colon and the rectum. The fecal pellets are formed in the end portion of the spiral colon. So the structure of the colon determines the structure of the feces, and that is why the feces of the sheep and goat is the feces of the goat specifically is rounded in structure because the colon is a spiral. Goater colon হচ্ছে spiral, and the colon, the last portion of the colon, will give the structure of the feces. Feces এর structure there. The capacity of the large intestine of goats ranges from 1.25 to 1.5 gallons. And there are some accessory glands which are also associated with the digestive tract. Those are the salivary glands in the mouth, the liver, and pancreas. They also contribute to digestion of feed materials. Saliva secreted by the salivary glands is important in the chewing of the cud. So by the help of the saliva that is produced via the salivary glands, they help in the chewing of the feed materials. Bile produced by the liver. So the liver produces juice known as bile juice. Bile produced by the liver. The bile juice produced by the liver and stored and secreted by the gallbladder. This bile juice is being stored and secreted by another organ known as gallbladder. Helps emulsify fat in preparation of digestion. So what does it mean? That this bile juice helps in the emulsification of fat in preparation of digestion. The preparation of digestion or undigested feed materials and the fat, they are different type of materials and they do not want to mix with each other. এই দুটা প্রপার্টি ভিন্ন ধরনের, কাজেই they do not want to mix with each other during digestion. But by the help of the bile juice have the capacity to emulsify fat. That means দুইটা ইনগ্রেডিয়েন্ট যারা পরস্পরের সাথে মিশতে চায় না, কোনো একটা আদার ইনগ্রেডিয়েন্টস এর মাধ্যমে যদি we can mix them up, that is the emulsification. এটাকে emulsification বলে. Okay, here the bile act as a emulsifier for the mixing of fat and preparation of digestion or the partially digested feed materials. Enzymes secreted by the pancreas are important for digestion of carbohydrate, protein, and fats. Okay. Development of the food stomach compartments. Have a look on the slide. I am coming back within 2 minutes. Okay, so we are back. The development of the four stomach compartments. As you have read down the slide, what is written here that at the earliest stage, I mean when the kid is born, the fourth chamber of the stomach is not formed yet. তখনও স্টোমাকের যে চারটা প্রকোষ্ঠ সেটা মানে they are not formed in their mature proportions. তারা তাদের mature proportion এ তখন থাকে না. Yes, they are present, but the proportion in terms of their size is somewhat different. Then the abomasum is the largest of the four stomach. Okay, so don't confuse it. Abomasum is not the largest compartment of the stomach, but at the early age when the kid is born, out of the four chamber, the abomasum was the largest compartment. The rumen of goat kid is about 30% of the total stomach area, while the abomasum is about 70% of the total stomach area. So you can understand the size of other two compartments is negligible. Hence, digestion in the goat kids is like that of a monogastric animal. So as because the abomasum was 70% of the total stomach area, the digestion is somewhat like the monogastric animals. In the suckling goat kid, that means in the younger kids, closure of the esophageal groove ensures that milk is channeled directly to the abomasum instead of going through the rumen, reticulum, and omasum. So in larger animals, what happens? The feed ingestate goes through rumen, reticulum, omasum, and then abomasum. But in case of the suckling goats, there is a closure at the esophageal groove. Esophageal at a groove রয়েছে. There is a portion known as esophageal groove, and there is a structure of the esophageal groove known as the closure of the esophageal groove. Okay, this closure ensure that milk is channeled directly to the abomasum other than going to any other compartments. The peptic or chief cells in the abomasum. Okay, so the chief cells in the abomasum, as we know, there are chief cells in the abomasum, secrete, in addition to pepsin, the enzyme renin. So we know the function of the chief cell or the function of the peptic cell is to produce the pepsin enzyme. But in case of the kids or young ruminant animals, in addition to producing pepsin, the chief cell also produce another enzyme known as renin, R-E-N-N-I-N, renin. This enzyme is responsible for forming milk curdles and digesting milk protein. Okay, so the renin, renin have the property that it can make the milk curd, মিল্কে জমাট বাঁধাতে সহায়তা করে renin. Okay, and this is how the digestion of milk protein is done. যেহেতু মিল্ক প্রোটিনকে তারা জমাট বাঁধাতে সহায়তা করে, এভাবে মিল্ক প্রোটিনটা ইয়াঙ্গার এনিমেলে ডাইজেশনে সহায়তা করে। Another information for you, as you know, during the cheese making এর সময় we use a ingredient to separate the casein portion. আমরা casein portion কে সেপারেট করার জন্য একটা ইনগ্রেডিয়েন্ট ব্যবহার করি, that is the renin. সেটা হচ্ছে renin. Formerly the renin was harvested from the stomach of young animals. হ্যাঁ, ছোট বাছুরের স্টমাক থেকে রেনিন হারভেস্ট করা হতো formerly, but nowadays the renin is produced commercially. Renin commercially produced করা হয়, that's why no longer we need to harvest the renin from the stomach of younger animals. So however, this renin is responsible for the digestion of milk protein, especially the casein. When the suckling goat kid starts to eat vegetation, okay, up to now we have talked about the milk ingestion or milk drinking. The suckling goat, when it starts to eat vegetation during the first or second week after birth, the rumen, reticulum, and omasum gradually develop in size and function. After approximately 2 months of age, the 4 stomach compartments reach their relative adult proportion. 2 মাস বয়স হলে তারা তাদের অ্যাডাল্ট প্রপোর্শনে চলে আসে, তারা তাদের অ্যাডাল্ট সাইজে আসবে না, বাট অ্যাডাল্ট প্রপোর্শনে চলে আসবে। This is how the 4 stomach develop in goats. And as we said that there is a esophageal groove, and the closure of the esophageal groove allow the milk to go directly to the abomasum, and you can see the size of the abomasum is much more larger than the size of the other compartments. So this is the stomach of a young kid. এটা একটা young kidের stomach, and the milk will obviously come through the mouth and esophagus, and after that, other than going to the rumen, there is a line to go to the rumen. Other than going to the rumen, the milk is being flown down to this direction, like this. Okay, so there is a mistake of the picture and I couldn't edit it. This somewhat like this, directly to the abomasum. So what happens here, the closure, this is the closure of the esophageal groove, the blue dots. Okay, the blue dots, they are the closure of the esophageal groove, and they close the opening of the rumen. As you can see here, they have closed the opening of the rumen, and they have also closed the opening of the reticulum, and that's why the milk will directly flow to the abomasum. Okay, directly flow to the abomasum, and this is the function of the esophageal groove during early stage of feeding, especially for milk feeding. Okay, so we are headed to our final slide, that is the rumination. And you know what is rumination. Rumination is defined as the regurgitation, re-chewing, and re-swallowing of rumen ingesta. So 3 functions are involved in the rumination process. So what are the functions? The regurgitation. The regurgitations means the recall of the feed material from the rumen to the mouth again. রুমেন থেকে খাদ্য উপাদান আবার মুখে নিয়ে আসার যে প্রক্রিয়া, that is the regurgitation. The rechewing, as we know from the meaning of the word, that they will chew the regurgitated feed material again. The feed materials that have been regurgitated, they will rechew it. যেটা রুমেন থেকে তারা মুখে নিয়ে আসলো এটাকে আবার রিচিউ করবে, আবার চর্বণ করবে বা চাবাবে, and re-swallowing of the rumen ingesta, and again they will swallow, তারা গলা ধঃকরণ করবে আবার এই রুমেন ইনজেস্টাকে। During resting period of the animals with four stomach compartments regurgitate ball-like masses of fibrous and coarse feeds called bolus or the card. তাহলে তারা কি করে? রিগার্জিটেট করে, তারা আবার রিকল করে। কি রিকল করে? the ball-like masses, বলের মতো গোলাকার masses of fibrous and coarse feed, আঁশ জাতীয় অমসৃণ খাদ্যগুলোকে তারা রিকল করে, which are known as bolus or card. The regurgitated card is rechewed or chewed thoroughly for about 1 minute. 1 মিনিটের মতো এটাকে তারা চর্বণ করে, then swallowed again, এবং এরপরে তারা আবার এটাকে গলা ধঃকরণ করে। Ruminant animals may spend up to 8 hours per day in rumination, এবং এইগুলো কাজ তারা করতে পারে দিনে 8 ঘন্টা পর্যন্ত বসে বসে রেস্ট নিবে এবং রুমিনেশন করবে, ডিপেন্ডিং অন দ্য টাইপ অফ ফিড। সো কি ধরনের খাদ্য তারা রুমিনেশন করছে তার উপর ডিপেন্ড করে তারা এই 8 ঘন্টা 6 ঘন্টা বা আরো কম সময় রুমিনেশন করতে পারে। বাট the more the amount of the fibrous feed, the more the rumination hour is. This phenomenon affects the amount of feed the goat can eat. Okay, so the rumination phenomenon or এই রুমিনেশনের যে বৈশিষ্ট্য, এটা এফেক্ট করে the amount of feed the goat can eat. গোট কতটুকু খাবার গ্রহণ করতে পারবে এটা রুমিনেশন দ্বারাও নির্ধারিত হয়। Because due to the presence of rumination, the goat can eat a lot of stuff at a time, and at the period of resting they can recall or ruminate the feeds again. Reducing the particle size of the feed through rechewing allows the material to be easily accessible for the microorganisms and to pass out of the rumen. রিচুইং এর মাধ্যমে কিন্তু আরো ছোট আকারে পরিণত হয় খাদ্য ম্যাটেরিয়াল গুলো, এবং এর মাধ্যমে যেহেতু খাদ্য যত ছোট ছোট আকারে ভাঙবে তার সারফেস এরিয়া তত বৃদ্ধি পাবে, এবং সারফেস এরিয়া যত বৃদ্ধি পাবে মাইক্রো অর্গানিজম তত ইজিলি অ্যাক্সেস করতে পারবে এই তাদের থেকে নিউট্রিয়েন্ট অ্যাবজর্ব করার জন্য, and they are also easily pass out of the rumen because of their smaller size. And this is all about the lecture, the digestive system of goat and sheep. Okay, so I got the answer of most probably Saidul asked me about which bacteria are present in the digestive tract. The first answer is that the bacteria which are present in the digestive tract, or we want them to be present in the digestive tract, are of beneficial type. Tara beneficial bacteria, they are not harmful bacteria or any disease causing bacteria, and there are around 200 species of bacteria present in the rumen. রুমেনে 200 প্রজাতির মতো ব্যাকটেরিয়া থাকে। Out of them the ruminococcus, then the Phybobacter, the Prevotella, etc. Okay, so there are different types of bacteria, and out of them these are the bacteria which are in most quantity, and they are not of any disease causing bacteria. They are of beneficial type, and we want them to be available in the gut. আমরা চাই যে তারা গাটে available থাকে, and if the amount of this beneficial bacteria is reduced, we can also introduce the bacteria to the gut of the animal via probiotics. প্রোবায়োটিকের মাধ্যমে আমরা ব্যাকটেরিয়া ইন্ট্রোডিউস করতে পারি, the beneficial bacteria. Okay, for further information you need to go to the internet by yourself. Okay,
জি স্যার বুঝতে পারছি।
okay, fine. So the lecture is done. হ্যাঁ
স্যার বলতেছি কি যে আপনার এখানে যে উপকারী ব্যাকটেরিয়ার কথা বললেন, তো এখানে মানে কোনগুলো মেইনলি আপনার এই যে সব থেকে বেশি ভালো হবে, মানে কোন উপকারী ব্যাকটেরিয়া গুলো ওদের যে ডাইজেস্টিভ সিস্টেমের জন্য সব থেকে ভালো হবে?
উপকারী ব্যাকটেরিয়া গুলোর যে নাম আমি যেগুলো বললাম এগুলোকেই বলা হয় যে the major bacteria of the rumen. রুমেনের এগুলো মেজর ব্যাকটেরিয়া। সো এই ব্যাকটেরিয়া গুলো বেনিফিশিয়াল, all other bacteria are also beneficial, but these bacteria are in higher content, বেশি পরিমাণে থাকে সবগুলো ব্যাকটেরিয়ার মধ্যে। And there are not only bacteria and protozoa, amoeba থাকে, তারপরে তোমার there are some fungus also, virus থাকে. So all these are associated with the digestion of the feed, but the major role plays by the bacteria and the protozoa.
স্যার একটা কথা বলতাম,
বলো।
সেটা হলো স্যার অ্যাবোমেজাম তো স্যার কিডে হায়ার স্যার লার্জ সাইজে থাকে স্যার, এটা কি যখন কিডটা যখন স্যার বড় হয়, ধীরে ধীরে বড় হয়, 2 মাস বয়সে যখন আসে তখন স্যার সবগুলা স্যার কম্পার্টমেন্টের তার মানে স্যার কাজ করার মানে সামর্থ্য রাখে স্যার। অ্যাবোমেজাম কি স্যার ধীরে ধীরে ছোট হয়, আর এই কারণে কি স্যার রুমেন রেটিকুলাম আর ওমেজাম কি স্যার বড় হয়?
না না, অ্যাবোমাজাম ছোট হয় না। অ্যাবোমাজামও কিড অবস্থায় যে সাইজ থাকে তার চাইতে অ্যাবোমাজামের সাইজও বৃদ্ধি পায়, কিন্তু the enlargement of other compartments are much more higher. অন্য কম্পার্টমেন্ট গুলো আরো বেশি দ্রুত বড় হয়, অ্যাবোমাজামও ধীরে ধীরে বড় হয়, কোনোটাই ছোট হয় না। ওকে,
জি স্যার।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম। স্যার না পাশে কেন আচ্ছা দেখতেছি সমস্যা হবে না, দেখতেছি। Okay, so is there any more question? Okay, I hope there is no
স্যার
more.
এই লেকচার থেকে কিভাবে কোশ্চেন আসতে পারে?
এই লেকচার থেকে কোশ্চেন আসার মতো কোশ্চেন হচ্ছে একেবারে ডাইজেস্টিভ ট্র্যাক্টের পুরোটা বর্ণনা আসতে পারে 8 মার্ক অথবা 6 মার্কের জন্য, তোমরা সেভাবে আঁকাবে। আবার যদি 10 মার্কের জন্য আসে সেক্ষেত্রে ছবি সহ দিতে হবে। 8 মার্কের জন্য আসলেও ছবি দেওয়া ভালো, এই গোটের ছবি আঁকাতে হবে না, অনলি দা ডাইজেস্টিভ ট্র্যাক্ট। হ্যাঁ, শুধু ডাইজেস্টিভ ট্র্যাক্টের ছবি আঁকাবা, নট দা গোট। গোটের ছবি আঁকালে টাইম কনজিউম বেশি হয়ে যাবে। তো একটা কোশ্চেনই তো আসলে পুরো স্লাইড পার, তাই না?
আমাদের পরীক্ষার কি হইল?
Okay.
একটু আপডেট জানাতে।
Then what are the accessory glands related with the digestion? এখানে এই প্রশ্ন আসতে পারে। Development of the forestomach, এটা একটা important question as a short question. How the forestomach is developed in ruminant. Ruminationটা তো তোমাদের এমনিতেই জানতে হবে। So specific তেমন কিছু নাই। আরেকটা কোশ্চেন যেটা ভেতর থেকে হতে পারে সেটা হচ্ছে why the ruminant can digest fibrous feed material. Okay, so if there is no more question, I am going to close today's session. আমরা শেষ করি। We will have another class in the upcoming Saturday.
পরীক্ষার বিষয়ে কিছু বললে ভালো হইতো।
পরীক্ষার বিষয়ে মিড টার্ম পরীক্ষা তোমাদের খুব দ্রুত রুটিন দেওয়া হবে।